Do you shop at St. Vinny's? Here are some reasons you might want to. Fall fashion. Hello, back to school shopping. Y'all, it's a perfect place to get cute and cool outfits that are budget friendly. And crafts. Are you looking for a new hobby? They got you. Plus, when you shop at St. Vinny's, you also help your neighbors in need. Money spent at the stores stays right in Dane County. They provide direct charity to the housing insecure, our food pantries, pharmacies, and more. So to find your nearest store, head to shopstvinny's.com. That's shop, STVINNYS.com. Today on CityCast Madison. It's the Friday News Roundup, and this week I'm joined by CityCast Madison's Haley Sperling and Ava Wynowski. The city announced a detailed list of possible budget cuts coming down the pike to offset next year's deficit. Our city's Parks Department's Ride the Drive event this Sunday is bringing street closures to Madison, and several beloved restaurants have closed or announced plans to close. It's Friday, August 9th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. All right, welcome to the Friday News Roundup. Y'all, there's a lot on the plate. There's a city considering lots of cuts and changes and grappling with different priorities. So let's get into it. Joining me today is the leader of this podcast, Haley Sperling. What's good?
Oh, Bianca, we are getting into it today.
And our interim newsletter editor, Ava Wynowski. Hey.
Hey, always happy to be here.
Yes, so as discussed, city considering cuts. Kicking us off this week, Haley, you've got the details on the latest around the city budget and deficit.
Yeah, so we have been talking about the city's budget question, which is referendum or cuts, put very, very simply. But until recently, we haven't really had much clarity on what services and jobs are actually at stake should the city take the route of cuts. So now we have a bit of a clearer picture. And I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good. Earlier this week, the city released an update on the budget process that outlines specifically what's at stake if we do not put forward and pass a referendum. Like I said, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And to be clear, this is the city putting forward its worst case scenario. If all of these proposals were adopted, it would result in the elimination of 147 jobs and not filling 144 currently vacant positions. So that's like a loss of almost 300 jobs, which is kind of insane to think about. But what does that actually look like in practice? Let's dive into it. It's not fun. Some of the bigger, more troubling cuts include reducing Metro Transit bus and weekend services, ending city funding for the Goodman Pool. So that would potentially mean closing the Goodman Pool or finding a third party to run it, eliminating a code enforcement officer, housing inspector, and information clerk positions, which would result in the slowdown of housing inspections and approval processes, reducing the city's care response team. So that's run out of the fire department, which we know is a vital part of the city. Even though that it's new, we know that it's working. Reducing poll workers to the minimum required levels, which would result in longer wait times for us at the polls. Reducing library hours and eliminating Sunday service altogether. And as we just talked about with Alder Sabrina Madison, not operationalizing the much needed Imagination Center over on the Far East Side. Reducing street repairs by over 50% and reducing snow removal services. Two things that we really, really need. Two things that we're always talking about. And on the police side, just part of it would be eliminating the gang and neighborhood crime abatement team. This is all just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I have not even covered a quarter of what the city has outlined. So, of course, a referendum isn't going to solve all of the city's money problems. According to State Journal reporting, even if a referendum passes, the city will still need to make a roughly 1% cut to his budget. But with the plan that was put forward, with all these cuts that were put forward, that represents a 5% cut across all of these departments. So it's rough. It's looking really rough. And these potential cuts are coming at a time when the city is growing. And many of these agencies already feel understaffed and overwhelmed in terms of like keeping up with demand. So it's not looking great. It's really not looking great. City Council had a meeting on Tuesday where they heard public testimony for folks talking both in favor and with hesitation about a referendum. Folks are worried about having to spend more money because if passed, the $22 million property tax referendum would add roughly $240 to the property tax bill of the average Madison home, which again is valued at roughly $460,000 this year. So it's money. It's money on the table for sure. But again, if we don't do something about this now, it's only going to get worse. The city is going to have to make $6 million in cuts for the 2025 budget, and it's only going to get worse in 2027. So here we are, stuck between a rock and a hard place still.
I can't believe I can, but the average Madison home is worth almost $500 million. Or sorry, $500,000. $500 million. That's how much money that is to me. It's $500 million.
It feels like that much, right?
Right. It's like, girl, you got some assets if you're the average in Madison and your home is worth almost $500,000.
That's what I've been saying, right? Like, if you are the owner of the average Madison home, you can probably afford an extra $240 a year on your property tax bill. I'm not trying to minimize this.
And not saying how you should vote, but...
Yeah, I'm not saying how you should vote. But again, like as a renter, my rent has gone up hundreds of dollars over the past year. And looking at the rental prospects in the city, they are few and far between. So that's a whole like series of podcasts. But a big part of this is inflation, just like really wreaking havoc on everyone. Again, according to the State Journal, the city's 2024 budget of roughly $405 million is actually $7 million less than its 2020 budget when adjusted for inflation. So people are talking about, oh, the city's budget's so bloated. Like, why can't you just make cuts? It's like, it's not. Though, it's really not. Inflation is hitting everyone. It's hitting the city and it's coming for us right now. And we're making a hard decision. And City Council is set to vote on whether or not to put the referendum, this $22 million property tax referendum, on the November 5th ballot later this month on August 20th. So we've got a couple of weeks to see how this plays out, but we're getting closer and closer to having to make some really hard decisions.
Gosh, yeah. It's just like across the board. I feel like people are going to revolt about the Goodman pool.
That's the thing, right? I mean, I don't want to say I don't think people realize what's at stake, but having the city truly lay out all of these different aspects and resources and services that we all use and saying like, this could go away. This should be kind of a big wake-up call for people, right? And I think it just comes down to what we value as a city. And that was something that, again, Alder Sabrina Madison got into in our conversation about the Imagination Center and about the libraries. It shows, what do we value as a city? What are we willing to do for ourselves and for our neighbors? Are we willing to put up the money, or are we going to shut up and take these cuts? That's what it comes down to, right?
Oh, squeezing the lemons. We're going to keep talking about city services. But before we do that, let's take a quick break.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
All right, we're talking about all the wonderful things that our city offers and what might be cut should the referendum not pass or should the referendum not go to vote, but the cuts that are on the table. One thing that is fun to celebrate that is paid for already and will be happening this Sunday is Ride the Drive in our city parks. There is fun. The city is alive with music, and Ride the Drive is this really neat. We've talked a little bit about it, but just want to flag it. It's this really neat day to celebrate our parks, and the tagline is "The Return of Parks and Open Streets." That's this Sunday, August 11th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's basically split up between 6 different parks. It's a single day free community event for all ages, and the event closes select streets to motor vehicles. So we wanted to bring this up because there are actually some significant street closures this Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So some of the streets are going to be impacted. John Nolan Drive, you might have heard of it. Williamson Street, South Ingersoll Street, North Shore Drive, Proudfoot Street, Regent Street, and South Orchard Street. Parts of them will be closed. So looking at John Nolan, that's going to be closed just from Olin Avenue to South Blair Street and that Williamson Street intersection. And then Willie will be closed from that South Blair Street, kind of where we should name that intersection because it's like the artery, one of the main arteries.
Well, it used to be, and it still kind of is, right? The hairball intersection.
Oh, perfect.
But the city, they did that whole like reconstruction and they were like, we're untangling the hairball. And as someone with like long, unruly hair, that may have happened before you got here.
Yeah. I went away and they untangled the hairball. Yeah, it's like quite
crazy,
quite efficient, but it's like right over there where they're, Willie Street when they do their fair. It's kind of that same area. So Willie Street's going to be closed from South Blair Street to Ingersoll. So that's a good portion of that. Regent Street's going to be closed from West Wash to South Orchard Street. There will be cross traffic allowed in a few areas. There's a couple of routes and locations indicated on a map that we are going to throw into our show notes. I'm going to roll past that hairball and talk about another park situation, which is over in Winona. Winnequa Park has a remodel underway. And I've been spending a lot of time over there. It's where the Monona Pool is. There's multiple softball diamonds. And recently, the Monona 4th of July Festival, I attended that and got to know this part of our little greater Madison area better. They are doing an update to make it more accessible.
Nice.
It's going to mean some real changes for the park. So I've been hearing a lot about that. They are looking to build like a bike path and make it stronger for pedestrians and bicyclists in the area. So some of the things that are going to happen is replacing the existing pedestrian path and moving the path closer to the shelter over there and completely onto city property. They're building a new 10-foot wide path from Greenway Road to the Fireman Park Shelter, providing a walking and bike loop through the park and additional safety routes to the school. If y'all haven't been over there, we've talked about it with the Macaroni Kid as one of the kind of top parks in our area. It's kind of crazy and it's so big. But yeah, they're going to be trying to add some more accessible routes there. And also more accessible seating areas for recreation programs. They're building a circular walking track to support special event races. And this is exciting. They're going to remodel the bathrooms, which Haley and I can both say is needed. We've been going over there for the Monona Softball League, catching some of the games. Yeah, it's a whole community. And I didn't realize just how much, or I take for granted how much like a city park can really offer a community over the years. Yeah. Because the Monona 4th of July Festival, we were told that was going to be the last year, and it's been going on for 60 years. Yeah, and that's like crazy. In part because of budget issues, right? And actually, I have a little update on that is there was a group that came together that basically they're like, we want to make sure this happens next year. And so that is at least percolating. People are working on trying to keep that alive. But the other thing that I'm hearing about this remodel, one of the softball diamonds are going away. So this is something that maybe it's more of a personal thing, but I just got a kind of greater perspective about roots in a community and how these sorts of changes might impact them. Like the Monona Softball League, they're not even sure like what the future is for them. So it's all these sorts of things. I hope that it continues on. They have their tournament this weekend, today, Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to be over there enjoying the nice Winnequa Park. But yeah, everything it makes you recognize we should not take our parks and the activities we hold there for granted, because there's a lot of,
very true.
A lot of love and community ties.
Parks are so important. And I don't even know if you mentioned, but Ride the Drive, I mean, that's put on by Madison's park group. So we love our parks. They do so much for us and we appreciate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been going on since 2009. The Ride the Drive has been kind of this beautiful display of commitment to a healthy, active lifestyle in our parks.
I've never been to Winnequa Park before, but I'm interested to kind of see. I want to get over there before they start the remodel to see what the kind of before and after is going to look like over there.
Well, construction started this Wednesday. So, I mean, it's going to take the next like 4 to 6 weeks on that. But come this weekend with me. Come watch the softball team. Yeah. I mean, it's really, I've never, maybe I'm a layman, but I've never seen a park so big. Like it takes up like
it is
3 city blocks.
It is big and beautiful, and there's a lot to enjoy there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll find out about the future of Monona Softball League at some point.
Reporting live from under my blanket, I'm Susan Curtis with Dunkin' at Home. Breaking news, pumpkin spice iced and hot coffees are back. I'll pass it to Mr. Curtis with his blanket for the full story.
That is so right, Susan. You know, it's never too early to get in a spicy mood. I'm talking cinnamony goodness that's so tasty, people don't want to leave their blankets either. Back to you.
No, back to you.
All you.
The home with Dunkin' Pumpkin Spice is where you want to be.
Speaking of future of things, there's some changes going on in the Madison food scene.
Yeah, I feel like we've been kind of talking a lot about changes and cutting and closures. And unfortunately, to kind of stay in that vein, I have a couple of restaurant closures to touch on with a happy anecdote kind of at the end. So not all is lost, not all is bad.
Yeah.
But recently, the Cap Times had just posted an article laying out 3 different restaurant closures that are going to be taking place or were recently announced. And to begin, the Daisy Cafe and Cupcakery will officially close its doors on August 26th.
Wow.
They've been around since 2009, so this is definitely a classic leaving for many people. In a post on Facebook, the owners Daryl Sisson and Kathy Brooks say that our opening was built on the premise of the 4 C's: cafe, cupcakes, coffee, and community.
Oh.
So along with cupcakes, they also serve brunch and lunch, including a ton of vegan options. But Sisson explained to the Wisconsin State Journal that after COVID, they definitely took a hit, but every year there's been slight upticks in their sales and all of that. But the trend this year was just not the same for them. And so they have decided to officially close their doors. I had never been to Daisy Cafe and Cupcakery. I'd never gotten around to it, but I was wondering, Haley or Bianca, if either of you have ever been and kind of what your experience is like. Because I feel like it's a Madison staple. It's been around on the East Side since 2009. I've heard about it. I've heard lots of chatter about it. I just had never gotten over there.
I just drove by this morning, honestly. Driving by is not the same thing as sitting your butt down, but I noticed that it was very full early on, which I don't see as often. So the news is obviously spreading. I have been once. I haven't really been someone who regularly frequents there, but it feels like staple is a really good word when you're driving over on Atwood Ave and you pass it. It's just like a part of the area. So it'll be sad to see people not sitting outside enjoying their 4 C's.
Of course.
The Force. I love the Four Seas. Yeah, no, I never had a chance to make it over there. But again, it's one of those things that, like, you drive past it all the time and it's there. And yeah, like you mentioned, Bianca, I was also driving past it the other day and saw a bunch of people hanging out there. So, like, again, clearly the news has spread and clearly folks want to come by and support for at least one more cupcake, which is very nice, you know. And but you know, things come, things go, and this will hopefully pave the way for something new to come in and for people to get excited about.
It feels like it gives Gilmore Girls to me.
I got that vibe
which
too,
I love.
Bianca. I know.
Which I don't know why I
seems...
wouldn't have leaned in. But like Lazy Janes and Flowers and yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was super cool that they talked about in one of the articles that I was reading about the cafe is that they don't have any fryers in-house. So they like try really hard to put like fruits as your side, talk a lot about a healthy lifestyle. So I think that's a really awesome thing that they were doing. But now to kind of go away from the Daisy Cafe and Cupcakery, another restaurant that announced its closure is the Ready Set in Oregon. So they opened in February in 2022, and they announced over the weekend that they are closing effective immediately. So this restaurant offered a variety of dishes from pizza to steak, and something that I thought was super cool about this place is that they use locally sourced ingredients. So they didn't really have a ton of explanation on their Facebook, but in their post, it was super clear that a lot of community members are sad about this one. And I know this is a little bit further outside of Madison, but it was also listed in that Cap Times article, kind of laying out 3 different restaurant changes. And then that kind of takes me into the third one, which is another Madison restaurant that is going to see some changes, but is not officially closing its doors, so don't worry, is the Kettle Black Kitchen located on Monroe Street. So the owner, Brian Hamilton, is passing this restaurant off into new hands. It opened in August of 2021, serving up French food with Southern influences, which was inspired by his grandmother and his mother. They are currently closed, but they plan to obviously reopen their door just kind of as the changes all set into place. So in the Cap Times article, it said that they're calling the new iteration of the restaurant KBK, and it will serve new American cuisine with Latin influences. So a total kind of vibe switch on the type of food that they're going to be serving, which I think is super interesting. But I know that they want to obviously keep as much of the original kind of vibe intact as well. So the new chef is going to be Chris Lund, the recent executive chef at the new Draper Brothers Chop House. He will co-own it with his wife, Emily, and his in-laws, David and Sarah Anderson. So I'm just super interested to see how they keep it alive while also obviously changing the type of food that is going to be served. I'm super interested to see kind of how that goes. And obviously Monroe Street is bumping with a ton of different restaurants, lots of things kind of going up there. I know One and Only has opened recently. So this like 180 here with Kettle Black Kitchen will be interesting to see.
Yeah, lots of changes happening on Monroe.
Yeah, the Ready Set, one of the owner, Matt Stebbins, he hired me at Notchville. He was one of the owners one of the leaders over there. That makes me sad. It's sad to say goodbye to places.
So while there are a lot of closures, I did say that there is going to be a positive note at the end of this. In the restaurant industry in Madison, we recently talked to Lindsay Christians, food editor at the Cap Times, about all the new restaurants coming to Madison. And there are a ton of restaurants to look forward to. So while some things are closing, not all things are bad. There are restaurants opening as well. So stay tuned for that. So make sure to go give that conversation a listen because there's a ton coming to Madison.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about in our fair city. We talk about that a lot, you know, like we got a lot of people coming here. We got a lot of new restaurants coming here. That conversation just aired this week. So yeah, go give it a listen and check out Lindsay's article in the Cap Times too, because there's more information in there. There's so many new restaurants in and around Madison.
Yeah, and she talked about some like great food carts. So you might even see those. In fact, one of them, you will for sure see some of those food carts if you head over to Ride the Drive. So, and if you don't go to Ride the Drive, but you're driving around, you might find it. It might find you. All right, y'all. Another week. Thanks for rounding up the news with me. Haley Sperling. See you later.
See you next time, Bianca.
Ava Wojnowski. See ya.
Bye. See ya.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. We're produced by Phil Circus and Selena Sia Reynolds. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Ava Wojnowski is our interim newsletter editor. You can always get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to Madison Minutes. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who rejoices over the beauty of our parks? See you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city, y'all. Until then, have a great weekend.